Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Fighter Heart podcast. Today, I'm getting the pleasure to sit with Avery. Thanks for taking the time, Avery.
Of course.
So, we like to get into it real quick around here. So, if you could give us a brief rundown about who you are, where you grew up, a little bit of your upbringing, and then get us right into your Fighter Heart story.
Yeah, my name's Avery. I am a 22-year-old and I live right now in St. Paul, Minnesota, but I grew up out in Watertown, very small country type town, kind of in the middle of nowhere. So I moved to St. Paul a couple years ago, and then next week, my partner and I are moving to Portland, Oregon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Pretty soon you're moving?
Yes. We hit the road next Wednesday, so very soon we're in the middle of packing up our home and getting ready to get out of here.
You renting a U-Haul and just going?
Actually, thankfully, we have just enough stuff to fit in the back of our two cars.
Oh,
So,
jeez.
yeah,
Awesome. So, that's
yeah,
exciting.
yes, very exciting. I have a few years ago, I was diagnosed with endometriosis, and dysautonomia and hypermobility spectrum disorder. And Minnesota is so like super hot or super cold, especially in the wintertime, obviously. So the like severe types of weather can be like really debilitating for my disabilities, which is like the biggest reason why we decided that like we want to leave Minnesota.
Can you explain? So you said some big words there that I don't really know, never heard them before. So can you explain what disabilities you have and how they affect you?
Yeah, so the major one is stage 4 endometriosis. Endometriosis is like tissue that grows outside of the uterus where it's not supposed to be. And for me, because I have stage 4, it grows in many different of my organs. So I have it like all the way up in my diaphragm. I've had to have like my appendix and fallopian tubes removed because it's just infiltrates your organs so horribly and it just causes a lot of pain.
Mm.
So I used to have like pain 24/7 before I had a surgery for it with an endometriosis specialist in 2023. And then I also have a connective tissue disorder that's kind of similar to HEDS or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome,
Mm.
where it just affects my tissues, ligaments, and my joints and stuff. So it makes me more hypermobile and gives me a lot of like joint pain. And it's pretty typical for people with connective tissue disorders to have other comorbid illnesses like endometriosis or POTS, dysautonomia, those things.
How did you get diagnosed? Did you always have like an issue and you just didn't know what it was, or did it just pop up?
With my endometriosis, I started having symptoms when I first got like my first ever menstrual cycle when I was 13. And it wasn't super bad until I was about 19 years old. And I had just kind of like wanted to go to the doctor and see like what their thought was. I had a really horrible experience with the first doctor that I saw for that. And so from there, I just started doing a lot of my own research. And I went back to the same clinic, saw a different doctor, and I was under the impression that I likely had endometriosis just from the research that I was doing. And she said right away, like, yes, I can definitely tell that this is endometriosis. So then, yeah, that was my diagnosis with that. And through like seeing different doctors for that, I am a patient at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, for my endometriosis. And through treatment and procedures with that, I found out that I have this other connective tissue disorder and my dysautonomia. Um, yeah, so I've always kind of had like joint pain and like symptoms of like um high heart rate and low blood pressure and stuff like that, like as a child, but I just never knew that it was something that other people like didn't experience.
You know, yeah, you just got used to it. You just lived with it.
Right.
So you didn't. So I assume it's like a genetic thing, right?
Yes, my all of my conditions are genetic. My mom actually had endometriosis. And then right now I'm in the process of going through getting genetic testing done for other connective tissue disorders, where I'll find out if maybe one of my parents has a connective tissue disorder that can be traced back to, to some certain gene. But the other type that I have right now that I'm diagnosed with, hypermobility spectrum disorder, is said to be a heritable condition, but people don't really know what the exact cause is.
So are you on a bunch of medications? How's it treated?
Um, so really, for my hypermobility, I don't take any sort of medications. Once we move to Oregon, I'll be doing things like neck and hip PT, just to kind of like strengthen my joints. And it's just like a lot of joint instability. But I don't really do medications. I personally try to not do that as much. But there have been times like with my endometriosis where like it's definitely like I don't have a choice. I have to do that. So I've definitely done that in the past, but there's just not a lot that can like directly help the pain overall. That's like substantial to stay on for an extended period of time.
Is it like similar to? I'm trying to compare it to something like your knees. Like, do you hurt right now?
Yes, with my hypermobility, I have joint pain like not all the time, almost all the time. And recently on one of my phone calls with my doctor from the Mayo Clinic, she said like if you're, because I'm 22, she said if you're not having pain all the time right now, like I need you to know that like that's very, very possible for the future. So I'm kind of like in this space right now where I don't know a ton about hypermobility spectrum disorder, and I'm kind of figuring out if maybe it is this other more serious genetic disorder. But yeah, there just isn't a lot at this point that I can do to really like treat it and stuff, and more than just, pain topical creams and ibuprofen and Tylenol and those things that everyone can use for the most part.
Is that kind of what you were doing before you were diagnosed anyway? Just taking Tylenol and stuff?
Yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
took a lot of Tylenol and ibuprofen growing up.
Yeah. So you, so my question usually is like, has your life changed? How has your life changed before and after you were diagnosed? But, not too much, I guess, right? You're just, because they don't have much to treat you. They don't really know how to treat
Yeah. Yeah, with my hypermobility, there isn't really like anything that they can do. At least like, with my endometriosis, on the other hand, there are surgeries that not necessarily will cure endometriosis, but can at least give some people like a better quality of life, which was what happened in my case. But at the same time, it's really just about like changing some of your lifestyle habits and maybe exercising more or trying to follow a stricter, like more healthy diet.
you. Have you been doing that?
I do. I try to also not restrict myself too much because I do also love a good sweet treat. So I don't follow completely like the super healthy, very strict stuff.
Hmm.
But for the
Thank you.
most part, I try to, eat as healthy as I can and maybe cut out more processed foods and stuff where I can.
Some ice cream every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Oh, cool. So, all right. So, what's the plan? You said you're gonna move, and then they're gonna start doing PT on you.
Yeah, so when I move, I have all of these doctors that I need to get referrals to, and I'll do neck physical therapy as like a separate thing, and then hip physical therapy as another separate thing, just to kind of like strengthen my joints and hopefully be able to. I've heard that some people do that and like have less pain after months of, getting in that routine of doing those exercises. So I'm kind of hopeful that that will be the case for me.
Yeah, I hope so. Did you? Did the doctors tell you anything when you were first diagnosed? Or were they like, sorry, there's no way to fix this? Or how'd they break the news to you?
Yeah, basically. And honestly, so I've heard so many doctors say, like, oh, the diagnosis doesn't even matter because we can't do anything for you. And I'm like, surely there's something that can be done because there's just so many people that I even personally know in the chronic illness community have this connective tissue disorder. And I'm like, there can't just be, thousands of us that are just don't get any help at all.
Yeah.
But I think like the luckiest thing in my case is knowing so many other people in this community that also struggle with this and kind of being able to see like, oh, what are they doing? What products are they using to be able to treat their pain? So all of that has really been like the most helpful for me.
So have you developed this community since you were diagnosed, or was it even before?
Since I was diagnosed, in January of 2023, I started this like endometriosis and chronic illness awareness Instagram account. And I post a little bit like on TikTok now too, just kind of like day to day what's going on or things like that. And have found so many people that also have like the same chronic illnesses that I do and those things.
So do you guys all talk to each other and like give each other advice, and it's like a community like kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Uh,
it's this really special community and honestly that's one of the reasons too why we landed on going to Portland, Oregon specifically is just from the online community. I have so many friends in that
Portland.
area and there's just for some reason I feel like more people with chronic illness or disabilities like in Oregon or
Really?
specifically the Portland area. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of excited to get there and be able to meet some people in person and things like that because I don't really know many people, at least where I live right now in the Twin Cities, that have the chronic illnesses that I do.
Yeah. Is there a goal with the community that you've built? Are you trying to like reach any specific goal, or is it just like this is a community safe space you guys can come and talk?
Kind of, definitely that. Definitely a space for people to like feel just like themselves, especially because having a disability is really hard and highly stigmatized sometimes. But also, especially when I first started my account, I had so many people reach out to me and say, like, hey, where can I find a surgeon for my endometriosis? Like people from Africa and Europe.
Oh.
And so I've just gotten to, like, had the ability to connect with people from all around the world, which is also really cool. And just make like different connections that way.
How what give us like a day in the life. So you wake up, are you in pain right away, or is it like get slowly throughout the day, a little worse?
Since I've had like my endometriosis surgery, prior to that, I was having pain 24/7. But now, like when I wake up, I usually have in the last few months, I've developed like pretty chronic hip pain, which is something I struggled a lot with as a child. And I also have like really horrible shin splints that are just it's kind of just like shards of glass in your shins like 24/7. So that pain is also pretty consistent. And then throughout the day, kind of depending on what I'm doing, part of my connective tissue disorder also includes like my jaw slipping out of or my jaw or my shoulder or my knees like slipping out of place and having to like pop them back into place or
So
my
your shoulder will like dislocate and you have to like pop it back in?
yes, yeah. Or there's another word, and it's not like a complete dislocation, but it's like a partial dislocation. It's a subluxation, and that happens a lot like with my rib cage. So my ribs will like completely slip out of place, and I have to like maneuver them back in so they're in the correct position for me to be able to like breathe properly.
What was that like the first time that happened? Like, were you scared? I assume you were.
I honestly like don't even I've actually thought about this. I don't really remember the first time that it happened, but like every time it happens, I'm like like I need to do something to fix this. And now, thankfully, I've learned from other like creators and stuff in the chronic illness community, like how to use KT tape to like tape your joints like in place
Wow.
so that they don't slip out because some activities definitely like make it happen more.
Yeah, like if you go for a walk, is it more likely to happen or?
If I'm like going for a walk, if I'm like sitting in a certain position in my car, or like if I carry something or if like I pick something up that's heavy, like my shoulder will drop so then it can like pop out.
And it hurts when it does,
Yes.
I assume. Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
It's,
it's extremely uncomfortable.
I could imagine. Yeah. Just had dislocated finger I had once and I couldn't believe it. So,
Oh gosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, okay. Um, so what is some advice you'd give to someone that might have endometriosis or something similar? Um, like what's some advice you would have told your younger self?
I definitely would have told my younger self to keep fighting and keep like being persistent with doctors, especially if you know that you have something. Like a lot of doctors will be like, "Oh, did you Google that?" But there are some patients out there like me that like were seriously digging into like NIH and like serious research publications just to be able to bring that to appointments and say like, hey, I know that the research is here, my symptoms line up with this diagnosis. And I think a lot of times like patients unfortunately have to be the doctor, and at least to be able to self-diagnose to the point of like making it to the point where you're looking at maybe getting diagnosed with that. And so I always just tell people to like seriously advocate for yourself. And if you think that you have something, or you can't just go in somewhere and say that you have pain and they're like, oh, well, we can't find any reason for you to be having pain. Like if you have pain, to just keep trying to figure out what the cause of that is.
Did that happen to you?
Yes, yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, definitely like with my hypermobility spectrum disorder, I don't necessarily fit the um criteria necessarily, and I don't have like a family history of it, and I have less medical history than other people because one of my parents is adopted, so they really use like family history for diagnosis with that.
Hmm.
And that's one thing that I've had to be like, I don't have this, and it really puts me at a disadvantage. And even recently, I saw a doctor like in the last couple of weeks at the Mayo Clinic for hypermobility spectrum disorder that said, like, you're at a serious disadvantage here for not having a parent, medical record with these symptoms and stuff, because other people will just come in here and then get diagnosed based off of that, basically.
Yeah. So they point blank told you like in the beginning, like we can't find anything wrong with you.
Well, yes. And then there was a lot of a few doctors too that said like, oh, you might have fibromyalgia, which is another type of chronic pain disorder. And I had then done some research on that and stuff and came back and was like, I don't have any symptoms of fibromyalgia. Like none of what I am experiencing matches up with this. So I just really had to keep doing like my own research. And eventually I did also find one doctor at the Mayo Clinic that like evaluated me and was like, yeah, you definitely have a connective tissue disorder. So because I think they came from a more like reputable source, it being Mayo Clinic, that's kind of what was able for me to have my stuff kind of move along and actually like get to the process of
Y-
diagnosis.
Yeah, like it brought it validity in a way because it's a big
Yeah.
big clinic. So,
Yeah.
excuse me. So I don't think we got fully into the day in the life. Do you have a day job?
Well, I did. Now I'm unemployed because we're moving next
Oh, yeah,
week.
true.
But previous to that, just a couple weeks ago, I quit my job as a case manager for people with disabilities. So I would really, wake up in the morning and do breakfast, and thankfully I'm able to do a lot of my work from home. I had a hybrid remote job,
Mm,
so I have like a set of clients that I work with. All of them have mental or physical disabilities, some even the same that I do, which is really cool. And then I work with them on being able to find services like PCAs or people to come and clean their houses for them when they're sick or after a surgery or stuff like that. So I would do a lot of that from home, which was great because um, part of like my disabilities and stuff, I have like low blood sugar and low blood pressure, so I have to be able to eat every so often.
mm,
And working from home was really helpful to be able to like do that and also be able to like rest if I needed to, just because I do have chronic pain like throughout the day.
mm.
And then having that like flexible schedule, I could just like schedule meetings with clients on days that like I knew I would probably be feeling like less pain based on like whatever the weather was or my menstrual cycle and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, to work around it.
yeah.
Um, so is it a degenerative disease? Like disease, does it get worse?
Um, I don't know that hypermobility spectrum disorder necessarily gets worse over time. I think if you're not doing like physical therapy and keeping like strength, then it probably does. But for my endometriosis and stuff, like that's something that because I have such a severe stage of it, it does get worse over time. So I'm expected to probably have surgery for it every 2 to 3 years, like for the rest of my life.
What are they doing?
And
Are they removing tissue? Is that what the surgery is?
it's like it is removing tissue, and it's like if this is an organ, it's basically just like covered in like this black tar is what it looks like in the pictures. And so like they remove all of that, and sometimes it's like different colors and stuff too. It's not necessarily just always black, but mine is usually black on my organs. And so they remove that by like getting down to the root of the tissue. Otherwise, there are some doctors out there that will use the technique called ablation, where they'll kind of like burn the surface of the area off.
Ah, wow, that sounds scary. It's like inside your body, they're burning your organs. Yeah, and I guess you're asleep, obviously, for this though.
Yes. Yeah,
Thank,
thankfully.
thankfully, yeah, exactly. Um, okay, so I mean, we wish you the best of luck. I mean, I in Portland, are you like looking to get the same kind of job? Like
Yeah, yeah,
you're trying to
I'm
do
really
something?
hoping to work with people with disabilities like in the future.
Yeah, something with endometriosis or
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, we wish you the best. Is there anything you wanted to say that you didn't get to tell us?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Yeah, all right, cool. So how can we follow your journey? Like are you on social media a lot?
Yes, on Instagram and TikTok, it's endometriosis Ave, AVE.
All right,
And
cool.
yeah, I post on there daily or weekly. So
Awesome. So we'll follow along. And I'm sure you're open to questions if people in a similar
yeah, of
situation have
course.
some we they can shoot you a DM, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. Avery, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Everyone else, we will see you again next week for another Fighter Heart podcast. Have a good one.